This was meant to be a kind of long talk. Not even long, but there's a good bit in it. So I might skip over bits and kind of, if anyone wants the slides, I can send them on. I might skip blocks of text. So yeah, this is the GDPR and cyber law, hacking and intellectual property. Title is long as the fucking thing itself. But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to go over the GDPR, going to go over Irish hacking law, and one interesting case. Intellectual property, which is copyright law, and Article 13, which is the big meme ban in the EU. So, let's start off with the GDPR. This is a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. If you're going to try and sue someone and they come back and say, oh, this guy told me, no. Always consult with a lawyer. This is an American disclaimer, I copied and pasted that into. So, I'm not giving you legal advice. This is just a bit of fun. So, GDPR. Oh, it's really dark. What is it and how do we comply? It's not brighter on the screen. GDPR is this is their first line. This is how we're going to explain it. No one's going to read that because it's So what is the GDPR? It breaks down to it was brought out to be this big, expansive, new, crazy thing that was going to ruin everything or going to change everything. That just wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. So the aim of the GDPR is to protect all EU citizens from privacy and data breaches in today's data-driven world. Although the key principles of data privacy still hold true to the previous directive, there's been a few changes to the policies rather than the actual goals. So this man is probably one of the main reasons that it got brought to the fore, and it's crazy lizard legs. So what actually changed? Increased territorial scope. So where does EU law cover for our data as EU citizens? So that's extraterritorial applicability. It doesn't mean anything to do with aliens. It's just penalties. There's a few changes to penalties. Consent. Data subject rights, which is the ones for like if someone breaches your data or if you're using someone else's data, what can and can't you do? And breach notification, right to access, right to be forgotten, data portability, and privacy by design. They're the headlines or the headings that they came under. So I'll start with increased territorial scope. GDPR makes it's so dark, Jesus. The GDPR makes its applicability very clear. Applies to the processing of data by controllers and processors. So controllers, processors, that's anyone who has our data. If they control our data, they process it. So it's the processing of data in the EU, of the data of an EU citizen or something in the EU. Doesn't matter if the processing is brought over to America, as long as the data is from the EU, the GDPR is in charge of it. So it's applies to the processing of personal data subjects by controller, not established in the EU, where activities relate to offering goods or services to EU citizens and the monitoring of behavior taking place in the EU. So it basically just stops the US saying, hey, we're not governed by your laws. We can do whatever we want with your data. So good examples here. Oh, that was really bright. This is the EU data. So let's say whatever country this is, I can't say that, probably China. They're storing EU citizenship data, GDPR. Let's say Australia is monitoring our interaction on the web, GDPR. Let's say Madagascar, probably, stores EU citizenship data, GDPR. If Argentina is monitoring web interactions, GDPR. And if Alaska is storing EU citizen data, GDPR. So it's not just EU law, it's kind of worldwide law, and they got to piss a lot of people off when they did that. Especially this guy, who's even sadder. Fines. Big bucks. What happens? So, tier approach to fines in the GDPR. Now, these are the maximum fine levels, but pretty severe. A company can be fined 2% for just not having their records in order for someone who's meant to be processing or looking at the data. So, if your books aren't straight, that's 2%. And that's 2% of your gross profit, not your net profit, 2% of everything you made in a year. Not notifying the supervising authority and data subject. So if you notice there's a tiniest data breach, and you don't tell whoever's in charge, you don't tell the data subject, that being the person who that is about the breach, it's another breach of GDPR. So this is the maximum fine. It should be here somewhere. There we go. 4% of your annual global turnover, or 20 million euros, whichever is higher. That's the maximum fine. So if a small company does a terrible breach of GDPR, this could basically shut them down. 20 million. That's it. Just gone. It's very serious. EU directive, and pretty scary. Which is one of the big ones that the Brexiteers didn't like. Consent. So what is consent in the GDPR? In asking for consent in any new piece of when we're processing data, the agreement must be clear, legible, and unequivocal. So you can't try and, we've all seen those Apple privacy or Apple terms and conditions where they just throw text at you. That can't happen anymore. It has to just be, yes, clear that you agree. Perfect. And consent must be distinguishable from other matters. It's just a bit of an expansion of both. Just clear, plain language. You can't just be a lawyer throwing loads of stuff at you like me right now. Must be as easy to withdraw consent as to give it. That was a huge one. Usually you had to, we've all been on mailing lists where it's been email person X and ring them and give this and do that and the other. It's not good. It's withdrawing consent has to be just as easy as it's give it. And it must include a reasoning for processing. You can't just say, oh, I want your data, can I have it? Yes. You have to actually say, I want your data to subscribe to my mailing list. That's one big change that came to GDPR. You notice, before it was, yes, I agree to be signed up to anything. Now it's, I agree to be on your newsletter, I agree to this purchase, I agree to this. Now some places will bunch them all in together, but it has made people a lot more wary of what they consent to because of all things. I don't sign up to newsletters anymore and it saves my emails a lot of spam. This is the big block of text. I'm going to quickly run through it. Breach notification. So that's if my data or any of your data is mishandled and there's a breach. There has to be a breach which is likely to result in a risk for the rights and freedoms of individuals. So if our data is at risk, you have to be told within 72 hours of them becoming aware. If not, serious breach. Right to access. So, where a data breach is likely, that's the same text. I just got this in there. Whoops. Yeah, let's just ignore this bit. Data processors are also required to notify their customers without undue delay. So, if you want to access your data, you're entitled to, I have just copied the wrong text in, but you're entitled to, let's say, I want to know what UCC has my data, what data UCC has on me. I can say, hey UCC, show me my data. It happens, we've seen a lot of people do it with Apple, just seeing what data they have on you. And they have to give it to you. You have to give it to you quickly. Should have had the time, copied in the wrong text, so I don't. Data portability. So, moving on from this, not only do you have to access your data, the companies now also have to make your data really portable. So your data has to be able to move across. If let's say I switch mobile provider, I remember 5 or 6 years ago switching mobile provider, they wouldn't change contacts, they would do this, you have to save your contacts, your SIMs. That can't be it anymore. If data's on your SIM, it's their responsibility to transfer it over, it has to be portable. So commonly used and machine readable format, you can't have an Apple only format. It has to be something that can be read by the other people. Right to be forgotten is a big one. Let's just get these ones in. Perfect. So, as long as, now, this one was a big one. We were like, oh, right to be forgotten, fantastic. Someone has my data, I don't want them to have my data. I want it to be deleted. Perfect. But what if it's a police department who have criminal records? What if it's someone who has a series of your previous criminal offences? So that there has to be genuine reason. You can't just say, right, it basically means that from now on, only data is actually important. So there has to be, there are outlines in our article, it's pretty complicated, but it has to be no longer relevant to original purposes for processing or a data subject withdrawing consent. The big one that comes in is controllers have to compare the subject, person whose data is about, their rights, the public interest in the availability of data. One big one that came out of GDPR, which a lot of people were pushing for, was a few years back, the Catholic Church in Ireland stopped letting you leave their books. It's not letting you withdraw your membership. People said, I want you to remove my data. The Irish government, for some reason, has been taken to court yet, presumably soon, decided that baptism certs, confirmation certs, things like that, were public interest. You couldn't just remove that, which makes sense for records, for censuses and stuff like that, but something we could see interest in the next few years. That's one of the cool ones that we could see. And the last one is privacy by design, for anyone who's coding anything or taking data. Anything now you make after GDPR, this is more of a recommendation. You have to have protection of data as one of your primary goals. You can't say, okay, I've designed this really cool thing that takes all this data and does all this cool stuff. How do I make it work with the GDPR? You have to, you actually have to make it, from the start, you have to design it so data isn't being misused. So, the quote, controller shall implement appropriate technical and organizational measures in an effective way in order to meet the requirements of this regulation. The massive block of text, I know I probably haven't taken much in, it took me ages to take it in. Again, I'll have the slides afterwards if anyone wants to read. If anyone really wants to read, I can send you my lecture notes, which have pages and pages of this shit. So yeah, that's the kind of boring thing. Holy shit, why is the contrast on these things just goes bright dark? It's like column using Discord. Hacking. Hacking is something that we presume, like I googled hacking and these were the first two images that came up. It's like a fella from the Troubles going, Whereas in reality, it's a lot more just like a fella on the computer. This isn't what happens. But moving on. What is hacking? That's another picture that came up with hacking. I put it hacking funny straight away. Just these guys. But this is another big block text. But in Ireland, it's section 2 of whatever act it was. I can't remember. A person who, without lawful authority or reasonable excuse, intentionally acts in an information system by infringing a security measure shall be guilty of an offence. That's fairly okay. That seems fair. But then the broad definitions they gave to information system is here. All of these things count. A device or group of interconnected devices, one or more forms of processing of data. Data stored, processed, retrieved, transmitted. It could be anything. Anything that stores data is an information system. Lawful authority, you have to have authority of the owner, the rights holder, or permitted by law. So that's police. But, these are really, really narrow definitions. You must circumvent a security measure. Circumventing a security measure could be anything. It could be ticking a box saying, do you have permission to use this? Yes. If you say yes, you're hacking. It's weird. It's weird how easy it is. It's a serious conviction, up to 5 years, and unlimited fine, which is scary. And then summary convictions for a lesser offense. But the thing is, you might get, like in the next case, which I put up, which is a pretty crazy one. Cuthbert, this is Cuthbert. I'll come back to what I was going to say. But this guy was what was he? Software engineer? Computer consultant. He was gained unauthorized access to a disaster emergency committee fundraising website. So he donated money to tsunami relief. I want to say Haiti. 2005 sounds like Haiti, but I could be wrong. He got no receipt. He wanted to make sure his money had gone through. He wanted to make sure it wasn't a scam. He was just worried. So, claimed whether he was just checking whether it was genuine. Which is fine. Found guilty of hacking. In Irish law, because he was an Irish citizen, even though he was American. That was it. He did no damage. He circumvented the security measure, that was it. He did no damage, the judge accepted, he meant no harm. There was no ill will intended, but he hacked. He broke in, and it seems a bit mad, but what was explained at the time was, if you sell someone, if you want to buy an Xbox off someone on Dundee, and you're like, oh, okay, I've agreed to meet this guy for the Xbox. Better go see if he's a good guy. You break into his house. No intention to do harm. You just want to see if you're buying the Xbox, if it's a stolen. Maybe he has loads of Xbox he's robbed. But in reality, you can't just break into someone's data. This is privacy, security. Privacy is a massive part of Irish law. It's not a constitutional right in the Constitution, but it's the next best thing. It's unenumerated. It might be mentioned, but it's been given as a genuine right that everyone has. You can't do that. And while this guy only got a €1,000 fine, he's got a criminal record now. He lost his job. He is fairly unemployable in anything to do with computing. He's just not a reliable guy anymore. And he meant no harm. So that was more of a thing of, we all read that in a lecture and talked about ethical hacking and people just checking stuff, and this guy's life's pretty much ruined. His career's gone. What's he going to do? I should have probably checked what he's doing now. What is LinkedIn and everything. Other offences, more blocks of text. Interference in information systems, big block of text. Just person who without lawful authority, same again. Inputs data, transmits, damages, alters, just messes. Rather than getting in, if you alter the data, if you make data inaccessible, you're guilty of an offence. Data is just anything. It could be a piece of text, could be anything like that. Again, penalties. Damage to data is again deleting, same thing again, intercepting for the ethics. And they only put this in recently actually, because I'm pretty sure someone in the EU somewhere nearly got away with one of the offences because he made a computer program do it, he didn't do it himself. So they put that into it. So if you make a Ushi Nailword level Discord bot to hack into data, it doesn't count. So yeah, copyright. This is the big one too, piracy. There's a lot of cases in this. I tried to break it down, but it's kind of complicated because it kind of went after people who were pirating a few years back. Sure, I got one. Sure, someone here has got one of those notifications off your internet provider saying you better stop pirating. So yeah, restricted acts. Application of restricted acts. So these are the things you can't do on the internet. Pink. So for an individual on the internet, you can't download infringing copyrighted material. You You can't link to infringing copyright materials. You can't host. You can't post to another's web page. You can't stream. So far, no one's really gotten done for streaming, hosting. So far, because they haven't sorted out doing these ones yet. They haven't figured out a good way to actually stop anyone pirating, linking, or hosting like the Pirate Bay. They have to an extent, but not major. Intermediaries. Intermediaries are, for a while, they thought the best way to stop was to try and start suing people like Google for letting the Pirate Bay come up on search engines, start trying to sue internet providers for providing a connection. So intermediaries got their own laws, which is providing an internet connection to infringing materials, whether that be to the website itself, or whether that be to ourselves for pirating. I mean, not me. And search engines are linked. A few exceptions went through: reproduction. If you were reproducing something that you had, let's say, if you're copying a file that's copyrighted from one thing to the other, you're not actually copying it, you're just moving from one place to the other. If you're caching it, or if you're doing anything with it that, if it's transient, incidental, and an integral and central part of the technological process, whose purpose is to enable a transmission or a lawful use of work, that's fine. It's just a weird one. I don't know why I put it in even. Making available is, to stop places like Google. You have a right to, if you make it, like if you're Reddit's a good example. If you host Reddit, you're not liable. If you're making available facilities that could make available pirated goods, you can't sue Reddit. Just so people who, if you post something on someone else's webpage that's copyrighted material, the person who the person who's in charge of the webpage might necessarily have anything to do with it. You can't really sue them for that. So, mere conduit. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. For intermediaries like internet providers, they just try to stop them by saying they provide the means for accessing information. There's no liability if they didn't initiate, select or modify the information, and transmission. This is complicated. I thought I had more time. That's pretty sure. But basically it was just that intermediaries who were, for example, like a mere conduit. If you were using uTorrent can stop by this because torrent files have a genuine use. If uTorrent doesn't make me download it, if uTorrent doesn't select that I'm the one receiving it, basically the bridge between, if I'm a pirate and the place I'm getting it from is here, the bridge between has no liability so long as they didn't basically make either side do it. And the act was if you design a program that's solely for doing illegal things, that is illegal. And also the information from that source, that's just another small thing that's, again, unnecessary. But caching, again, there's a few laws about if you've cached content on your in one of your servers or anything, as long as you don't modify compliant conditions, as soon as you know that there's bad stuff on it, as long as you work quickly to get it off, that's the main thing. And hosting, again, they're just trying to stop the basic thing of these copyright laws was to stop innocent bystanders. It'd be like robbing someone, putting the robbed thing in a woman's handbag, coming back later, taking it out of her handbag, and then saying, "Oh, but she had it in her handbag all the time." She might have had no knowledge. Stop that sort of thing. So, one big one that was put in was that there was no obligation to monitor for member states. So that was to stop. It means that basically made it illegal for countries in the EU to be watching over what we're doing. You can't just take everyone's data, see, okay, I took 1 million people's data and 4,000 of them are pirating, so, okay. You can have obligations for information society, there's all these rules around it, but essentially, no country that's ever tried to put in regular in the EU, sorry, just obviously a place like China, but no country that's ever tried to monitor data regularly has ever really gotten away with it. People have had their privacy rights put against it, and people's right to privacy is more important than monitoring millions of people. So, this is the cases in the last 10 years. My original plan was to go through a few of them, but this is all the cases that had any minor or major development in copyright law. So, as you can see, that's a lot. I think that's in it. Yeah, like a lot of these are actually Ireland. The record companies in Ireland really thought they had a good loophole they could get out of EMI Records. They spent so much money on legal fees. and they got absolutely fuck all out of it. They just fucked themselves even more. So yeah, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's 11, 12, 13, 14 cases. It's even nothing. It's just people going around in circles, judges doing this, judges doing that. And the problem with a lot of Irish courts is that you might have Judge A who does this. Sorry, Judge A does this one in 2020, who has a certain agenda. He might be very pro company. Judge B does this case, and he might be very pro free internet. So they're overruling each other. It comes back to Judge A and Judge B. You know, it's not really for their place. No one really knew what to do. And even like in 2013, these were actually 2 separate cases that had 2 totally different outcomes. No one knew what the fuck was going on. So they brought in this graduated response systems. It's kind of interesting. Again, it's a bit complicated, but I'll put in the first 3. Essentially, if an intermediary, like the best example is an interprovider, that's who they went after actually. Let's go back to the last one. They went after Aircom, UPC, Aircom. You went after data protection. I don't know why they went after data protection. They didn't get any other UPC. That's all Ireland, where they went after the internet providers, trying to be like, okay, internet providers need to systematically block people from using it. They need to either stop the websites, stop giving the website access. I know UPC do that now, you can't get onto the pirate bay and stuff like that. Or else you need to stop giving people who are pirating internet access. And eventually, I think as of this one, they brought in graduated response system. Don't quote me. So, if I'll use Aircom. If Aircom find out, if a record company find out that they put a link on, that's what a lot of them do now. They put their information up on a website as a torrent, maybe some shitty album. I download it. They're like, okay, bang, he's downloaded it. They'll tell the internet provider this person's after downloading it. The internet provider sends me one letter. It says, cease and desist. Just stop what you're doing. I don't stop what I'm doing. Download their second shitty album. Cease and desist. You gotta stop. And you're told first warning, second warning. 3-strike system. Defendant, me. Oh no, sorry. Defendant is the record company. Defendant receives third copyright infringement from the record company. I get told, the subscriber, that I've had 3 notifications. This is where the shit goes down. Big block of text, fantastic. Interface subscribers, the plaintiffs, can make an application to get my identity and address, and they may seek to get my internet service terminated in either courts or just off that specific broadband provider. So it's pretty serious. They can also directly try and sue me for what I've done, and they can't. The Aircom can't oppose that. They just can't, and they won't seek any costs. There won't be any suing, oh, you did this, you did that. It's just, if I've done it 3 times, out of Aircom's hands, I've taken responsibility for my actions. Those guys are going to come over and try and absolutely just wreck it. The record company pays 20% of anything it costs to send out these forms or anything like that. But this is a really weird one that they kind of messed up. Each of the internet providers only has to send 2,500 letters a month. So, like, there's definitely more people than that pirating in Ireland a month. And you've kind of really capped yourself there, so there's not much else you can do. That's a stupid law, that's a stupid law, and that's a stupid law. But yeah, so you've kind of got a really decent law for everyone. 3 strikes and I'm out from my internet provider, they're going to sue me, that's great. You're giving me a chance at least, people aren't innocently pirating if they've gotten 3 letters. And you've got a good system here. And I suppose they just didn't want internet providers losing their business to put this in them. Again, I'm just ignoring this. I don't know why I put it in. So, yeah. And kind of lastly, the funny thing, which was, I got first in this one module, and my essay was about this. And we brought up in class, and no one else really talked about it. So this is what they've done so far. They've tried to filter out piracy companies from search engines. They tried the GRS, which is the last thing, the graduated response system, 3 strikes and you're out. They tried to block piracy websites. So, have any of them worked? No, we all pirate. So, effectiveness. No evidence demonstrating a causal connection between GRSs and reduced infringement. So nothing's happened. They do very little actively to actively require even encourage benefits. So nothing's happened. But the IFPI, who represent the music industry, reported that for the first time in a long time, there's been year-on-year improvement for the music industry globally. Click. The movie industry has broken its records for worldwide box office receipts for the last 7 years straight. So the kind of turnout has been new business models are what's actually stopping piracy. Things like Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Google, Stadia, if it works, is actually what's going to stop piracy. Rather than trying to tell everyone, hey, you have to buy our DVDs, if you make new business models providing reasonable access to legitimate content, they're reducing infringement and increasing markets. So, like I said, Netflix, Spotify. And the whole essay was written about that. And like, it's kind of the most bizarre thing that if I go back, it went through all this stuff, and it's Netflix and Spotify that solved the problem, you know? So, yeah, like, I presume pretty much everyone in this room has Netflix or Spotify or one of them. Like, I know myself, I don't pirate TV shows anymore, it's too much effort. I have kind of rushed through that. I know there are probably questions. Oh, Article 13, I totally forgot about it, it's the fun bit. Article 13, that's the asshole behind it. Oh, what are you doing? AKA, EU kills memes. I need to finish talking about this, Jesus. What is Article 13? Article 13 was going to be brought in to try and stop, it's another intermediary law, so, but for websites like YouTube, websites like Reddit, aims to place more responsibility on websites such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter to make sure that copyrighted material isn't illegally shared. That seems like a great idea. We'll have good response systems, so what's the responsibility? Online content sharing online content sharing service providers, OCSSPs, are obliged to conclude fair and appropriate licensing agreements with right holders. Great. They're going to agree when, so it'll just mean that YouTube will have its own privacy policy, which I'm sure already does, and copyright policy with these places. They're obligated, you know, great. Covers liability, fantastic idea. In the absence of such liability licensing agreements, or where there's a hole, like we see on YouTube or something with the full film, rights holders must cooperate to ensure that unauthorized protected works or other subject matter are not available on their services. Again, good idea for these places. They don't want, for these companies. OCSSPs must also put in place effective and expedient complaints and redress mechanisms for users who think their content have been unjustly removed. So, if you look at it there in black and white, it's like blue and yellow. It looks fine, you know, it's fair and reasonable, blah, blah, blah. But anyone who's on YouTube or has seen all that YouTube drama that's coming out in the last few while, people are having things strike for copyright on more than just YouTube. So, the EU's, is that it? No. So, the EU is proposing that, like YouTube have currently, there will be automated response systems, but we all know that doesn't work. That just doesn't work, you know. I think that's what this guy doesn't understand. He thinks computers, like those guys who are interviewing Zuckerberg, these computers are these magical things that will detect copyrighted material. But from all that shit, if you put all that law and all that stuff into computers and run them through a system, yes, no, it just doesn't work. There has to be interpretation. So his idea, once you go as far as here, is a great idea, but you can't do it automatically. There's too much data. So Article 13, referred to colloquially as meme ban, as the meme ban. I can't believe I copied that line off my lecture. That's such a terrible line. You can tell he's like 55. You know, you can. It's just one of those things that. It's great in theory, and it's great when you put it into a computer, and it's great when you're a 55, 60-year-old old man who's in the EU all day, doesn't do shit. But when you actually try and put it, if I ask one E in here to design a computer program that would actually be able to do that, you just can't do it, because that's not black and white. Like, what is fair and appropriate licensing agreements? What is cooperation? What are unauthorized protected works? Where does fair use come in? Like, throughout all this, there is no fair use in EU law. So then you've got to take in American law, Australian, Asian. It's just not going to work. So what will probably happen, and that's why the meme ban came in, is it'll just be YouTube don't want to deal with it, so they just put blanket, we're not dealing with the EU anymore. So yeah, that was an extra thing. Not clear how OCS should have just said. Not clear how online content sharing service providers expected to identify and remove Jesus Christ. Unauthorized content. That's probably not going to happen. So we've gone through all that, whatever, maybe 12, 13 cases 7 or 8 of which were just in Ireland. You can imagine how many are in every country, bigger countries as well, having hundreds of cases about copyright. Like, they got a good system by just encouraging things like Netflix, Amazon Prime. That was working. There isn't really such a need for this, but what are you gonna do? They're gonna end up. It's gonna come true. Pretty much all the powerful countries' governments are backing it. So enjoy YouTube when you still can. That should be it. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, I'll try my best. I probably won't be able to take specific questions. If you have like, I'm stealing people's data, what do I do? But again, the slides will probably go up with the Netsoc link. Sorry, it was a bit rushed. Whoever lit that fire is an asshole. Again, if anyone wants, just DM me on Discord or come up to me afterwards. Peanut in my throat. And I'll send you all my lecture slides if you want anything specific. The stuff about these intermediaries and stuff, I know it's very thick. I didn't really explain it too well, but it's very complicated to actually try and explain. But it's explained very well if you fancy a bit of reading during study week and you don't want to do any more coding. So yeah, any questions? Or are we all good? Good.